Hey everybody, it's Brandon, the Weekend Cruiser, where I've been on over 160 different cruises, and most recently I just got back from the Carnival Conquest doing weekends out of Miami. And I wanted to share with you, hey, what were some things that surprised me about Carnival? As many of you know, I have been loyal to Royal. I now do MSC, Virgin, Celebrity a lot. But I wanted to branch out even further. You're going to see that continuing even into 2026. But this was my first cruise on Carnival since, honestly, 2009. I went on the Fantasy from New Orleans for a 4-night sailing. And, I don't really remember much of that. So I wanted to come on here and share with you, what my thoughts are on what surprised me on the Carnival Conquest that, I really wasn't expecting. The first thing that we'll dive on into here is the Carnival Conquest was actually a really nice ship. I got some bad comments on, Brandon, why would you go on the Carnival Conquest? It is the worst ship in the fleet. Why don't you go on Mardi Gras or some of these newer ships that are doing 7-night sailings? Well, the honest answer there is they're not doing weekends. I am the weekend cruiser. I do weekends. And so the Carnival Conquest has been doing weekends for, honestly, as long as I can remember, at least pre-COVID. It was doing weekends and it continues to do weekends. And so it's kind of overdue that I got there. But with that in mind, she gets a bad rap online because she is an old ship. She is several decades old, and a lot of you made her sound like she was neglected and not kept up, and I'm here to tell you it was a beautiful ship. I walked around there and thought it was spotless, it was well maintained, the blown glass was beautiful in the hallways, it was really, really well done. So I had absolutely no gripes about the cruise ship itself. The second thing that I'll call out here is, karaoke. I thought Carnival would have really good karaoke, and that was absolutely not the case. I went to 2 different times on a weekend where they did karaoke, and y'all, they could not sing to save their life. I was shocked. For whatever reason, I had it in my mind that the singers, the talent on karaoke for a Carnival ship, especially the weekend, would be off the charts amazing. It was not. It was not. It was normal people having a good old time. I have one decent one here and there, but most of them were not even decent. They were pretty bad. The third thing that I'll call out is, there weren't a lot of people at the activities. I don't know exactly where everybody was, if they were hanging out in their rooms more, but there just weren't a lot of people hanging out, doing activities, whether that was trivia or seeing, the saxophonist playing the atrium. People just weren't out and about as much on the ship as I thought that they would be. I thought there'd be a flurry of activity, people kind of moving everywhere, and it didn't feel crowded, didn't feel busy. It was a really good flow of a ship. So the only time that it was busy, and I should have anticipated this one because I had seen the Carnival Conquest sail away many times. From a Royal ship, from an MSC ship, they always have an earlier debarkation time than what we have on the other ships. So they always sail by, and you hear the people partying and screaming and having a really good old time. But for a Carnival ship, it is a stacked approach. So you can only see the top layer, but the sailaway is going on below. So you can't see that from the other ships. But when I tell you that people showed up for their sailaway party, I have never seen a sailaway party as packed as it was on the Carnival Conquest. They were killing the line dance moves that they had out there. Everybody knew them. Everybody knew the words. And there was not an extra square inch anywhere on that lower deck down there. They didn't come to any other events, but sailaway party, best you guarantee they came out for that one. The fourth thing here that I thought was a surprise to me was, it honestly was not that casual. I think I'd kind of gotten in my mind, other cruise lines on weekends were just super casual, especially if you go on a Royal Caribbean ship, you're going to see people coming to the dining room wearing just about anything these days. But on the Carnival Conquest, shockingly, I found it to be more formal. People actually dressed up, they had a better appearance, and it was an elevated experience than what I thought it was going to be. I thought, oh gosh, I'm going over to Carnival, it's going to be either the same or more casual? Yes, more casual than it has been on some of the other cruise lines, and that wasn't the case. If anything, it was more formal than I really expected, which was a welcome change. The only exception to, it being a little bit more formal, I think that's the main dining room specifically. If you go up to the buffet, I would say that was more casual than I see on other lines, especially when it came to breakfast, because there were a ton of pajamas, there were a ton of bonnets. People had just rolled out of bed and said, okay, let's go grab some food. Which totally appreciate. It's a weekend cruise, but that's just a little bit more casual than what I am traditionally exposed to. My favorite part of the Carnival Conquest that I didn't even know existed was the Serenity adults only area on the upper decks. And so this was a beautiful area. It was above where the pool is. So you know I said that it was kind of tiered. It's on one of the higher tiers, away from everything, so you don't really hear the music as well there. It's quieter, it's more peaceful. It gets a great breeze that's coming through, but more importantly, the seats there are cushioned. And so I was super excited by this. A lot of cruise lines love to put their adults only section on an inside section that's not going to get a good breeze. It doesn't have a good vibe to it. But this was a really cool area to hang out. I spent so much time up there. Even when everybody else was leaving, I was still up there reading my book and having a great time. I loved this area, and I didn't even know that it existed on this ship since, I just didn't research it, didn't know, found it, and fell in love. It's also got 2 hot tubs up there that were adults only that I find to be a really big benefit. Though they stayed packed, so I did not get into them. I was kind of disappointed in that, but it was a really great area. The 6th thing here, and this one I don't think should have surprised me, but it did. So I knew that Carnival Cruise Line had implemented narcotic dogs during the embarkation process. So when you are boarding a Carnival Cruise Line ship, you're going to be sniffed by a narcotics dog. They're going to be lining you up, walking them through it, or walking the dog through everybody's suitcases by you to see what you may have, see if they can smell something or detect something. That part I knew about because I'd read that in the news on how Carnival's trying to change their image. What I did not know is Fido comes on board. So not only is the narcotic dog in the port, welcoming you onto the ship, smelling all of your luggage, they're also going to be on board the whole time, walking around. So you never know when you're going to run into a narcotics dog on a Carnival ship, which really surprised me. But what it did do is I didn't smell the aromas of anything while I was on the Carnival ship, which was, personally, I just don't like the smell of it, whether you do it or not me to judge. I just don't like the smell of it. And so I was really thankful that I didn't have to smell that on this cruise. I didn't smell it anywhere. Whereas if I go on other cruise lines, best believe you're going to be smelling some stuff. The 7th thing that I'll say about Carnival Conquest that really surprised me was there weren't that many kids, which is a welcome surprise. Like, make no mistake, I was excited about this. But in thinking about it, the ship really is not designed for children. They didn't start building ships for children until much later on. It does have 2 slides on board, but honestly, they're not much to write home about, especially compared to what some of the newer ships have these days. So children just aren't there. What you did see more of, though, were, I saw older children sailing with parents, so like 20-year-olds sailing with their parents, weekend getaways. There were things like that were going on for the parents, but I didn't really see that many kids there. They left the kids at home, which I 100% agree. And some of this honestly could just be, I am so sick of kids sail free on other cruise lines, where you're just inundated by all the children, that this was just something that I'd become to think that all cruise lines had tons of children, but this one definitely did not. The 8th thing that really surprised me was, I love the singers and dancers and the production shows that are put on the cruise ships. I love going, supporting the cast, hearing the songs, and, honestly kind of singing along every now and again to some of the songs. So I went to the All Aboard show on the Carnival Conquest thinking that, hey, this would be a great opportunity to sing along, to see the singers and dancers. And what I found was, it started on time at least. Cruise director came out, as they normally do on a cruise ship, but then the cruise director continued to talk for 35 minutes at the Welcome Aboard show. And granted, he put on kind of his own kind of show. He did like this improv thing, lots of interaction with the audience, which was fine, but I really thought that there was going to be singers and dancers here, like putting on a show. But it was more of a preview show. So you had the cruise director talking and showing off for 35 minutes, and then it switched into kind of a sneak peek show of the singers and dancers for 15 minutes, and then you're done and you were able to leave. I was just really looking forward to a different experience. So this is one that did disappoint me some, but I think that that's just a different way that Carnival does these. It might not be on the other cruise lines. Let me know if the other Carnival ships do that or not. But just one thing that I'll keep in mind going forward is I'll just show up 35 minutes late. The 9th thing that surprises me here is, the Carnival Conquest normally always has a sea day. It does not do 2 ports as you will find on other cruise lines, which is fine. I knew that going into it. What I did not expect, though, was to find a seat at the pool. So I don't show up on time to the pool. I'm not one who gets there at 9 o'clock and fights everybody to get a seat. I showed up probably about 11. There are plenty of seats that anybody could have had on this sea day. They were everywhere. People would come, they would sit down, hang out for a little bit, and then they would leave. People did not camp out at the pool on the Carnival Conquest. It didn't have, like I would go and read and hang out for several hours, but most people would spend an hour, hour and a half, and then they're out. There were plenty of seats everywhere. On a sea day, you all, in the afternoon, there were seats available. You didn't see many chair hogs either, but I really enjoyed that. The pools also were never crowded, even on the sea day. I would see 3, 4 people in there. It was more popular to sit along the edge of the pool and to just dangle your legs in, but there weren't that many people that got in the pool. On the other hand, the hot tubs were exceptionally popular, and if there were kids on the ship, this is where they were with hopefully an adult beside them, and they did stay very crowded. But I think the best part about the pool here for me, and again, this is where I've been kind of, what is it, mind wiped? Not mind wiped, what do you say? Brainwashed, there we go, into how things are done at other places, thinking that that is normal. But, you know, the music selection on the Carnival Conquest on the sea day was like easy listening music. It was like Tina Turner and your favorites from the 70s. Just things that you could just easily dance to if you wanted to. The music was at a respectable level. It wasn't this big old party kind of crowd that I really, really appreciated. And it made for a really good time. You could feel people feeling the good energy, the good vibes, but you could have a conversation, you could talk to the person beside of you. It was a really good time, well done time. And the 10th, and then I'll give you an 11th bonus one that I've come up with. The 10th one here was, you know, I think all the cruise lines probably pull from the same headliners. And I've seen a lot of them. Like I'm on this ship now, and Kiwi is going to be one of he's the comedian tonight actually on Quantum Ulysses where I sit today. And Kiwi's going to be doing a comedian show. And I know he's going to make a joke about his name and how people say, Kiwi. And so I've seen a lot of these people. I also love the comedian, so I normally always go to them, even if I've heard the punchline before. But I will tell you that the Carnival Conquest comedians, had not seen them before, but they were the absolute funniest, most hilarious people that I had seen at sea. And I did not think that, I thought they were just going to be some of the same old kind of, you know, boilerplate plus, but that audience was eating it up. First of all, the audience was packed. This is one of the activities they actually did show up for. The room was packed, the theater. But they did such a good job. We were rolling in the floor, in the aisles. It was a really, really good time. So if you go on a Carnival ship, or at least if you go on the Conquest, see if they still have some of the same comedians. I should have remembered their names so I could tell you all and brag about them, but I forgot to do that. And the 11th thing here, and I think that this one is actually really important. I created a video right before this on a full ship walking tour of the Carnival Conquest. And what surprised me about this is you all haven't seen it. The algorithm has not pushed it out. I think it's because I've been doing Royal, MSC, all these other cruise lines, and it has not pushed a Carnival video to you all or to the right audience yet. It doesn't know who needs to be there. So make sure you're coming here and checking out the full ship walking tour of the Carnival Conquest so you'll know how to get around when you get there. All right, everybody, this is Brandon, the Weekend Cruiser. Hoping to see you on a weekend cruise soon.